I totally agree with that. Let's grab a call for Don Hooper right now. That's you. You're on the air with Don Hooper, candidate for Congress on WMKT.
Thank you. I'm on my way to Wolverine. There's a lot of dead space here.
Understood.
But Mr. Hooper, I am up in arms about this recent immigration problem in Arizona. The problem, first of all, I heard this morning that Obama and his administration is suing the state of Arizona for their law. Secondly, I read yesterday that Arizona has been made by federal mandate. They've put federal marshals in charge of over 3 counties in their state within a few miles of Tucson. I think about 80 miles, I guess.
Yep.
And the fact is that we've given up sovereignty to the Mexican drug lords. Why don't we have federal marshals in there saying, okay, this is enough. You druggies are leaving, and military if we have to. Get them out of there and give us our sovereignty back. We are giving away land. We're not just giving away rights. We're giving away land, and we're giving away the creativity that you just spoke of earlier. As a U.S. senator, representative in Congress, what can you do to help solve this problem and get us back on a track of where we have our own sovereignty?
Well, yeah, I believe every word that you've said because it's all true. And people have been trying to tell the administration this for a long, long time. And they simply can't understand that you have to protect your borders. If you have a nation, you have to know how far your nation reaches out. If this is the United States of America, where does it reach out? Well, it begins over New York, and it goes to California, it goes to Canada on one side, and the Mexicans on the other side. You can't open up the borders and allow people to freely flow here because it upsets the whole economy, it upsets the whole values that we have here. Immigration is a good thing, but the way they're handling it down there in Arizona, and these people are just had enough. And the governor of the state, I think, is doing an excellent job, and she's got a lot of grit. And so if we don't get the borders closed pretty soon, things are going to be becoming worse and worse all the time. Mexico is so corrupt down there that the people don't even want to stay there. And I do sympathize with young families that have to find a better way of living, and they want to come someplace and get a better job. All that's well and good, because we can use a lot of labor in this country, but not the way they want to do it. I mean, we can't just have the border and people flowing across there at the rate of 2,000 a day. I think that we should reopen Ellis Island, and we should start taking people that want to immigrate here through a sensible way of doing it. And we ought to open up on the other end over in California, Alcatraz, which used to be a big prison, but has had a lot of renovation lately. And why can't we turn it into an immigration source for Asian people, for example, on the other end of the country? But we must close our borders, and we've had the money to do it. And not only is this administration at fault, but the previous administration. I had a lot of respect for George Bush, but when it comes to immigration, he lost me. I was totally irritated with the fact that he had the money to build the entire fence, and they did not do it because they were too much in bed with Vicente Fox down there. And they've got to stop listening to that and start listening to the American people. And the people in Arizona are very right and very justified with what they're doing, and I stand behind them 100%. And if it's stopped there, of course, it's going to spread to New Mexico and Texas.
I think everybody in Michigan ought to be really upset about what's going on in Arizona, because everybody, by the grace of God, can go us. We're going to take one more call before news, because I've got to take a news break, but you've been hanging on. I will take your call, and then we've got to take a news break, and then more calls for Don Hooper. You're on the air real quick. Hi.
Yeah, Greg, well, if I can hold over after break, too, I will. But, Don, you just said that you have a lot of respect for George Bush. Well, I have to give you probably more information on that family and how they're so connected with all this. I don't have any respect for the Bush family. They've been tied with so much criminal activity through the years. But I back a lot of things that you say. And this thing about jobs and border, we talked about the North American Union on Greg's show yesterday, the treaty that Bush signed with the President of Mexico and the Premier of Canada. There is no intention of closing those borders. This is a new world order they're headed for, Don, and there's a video out there I mentioned on the show yesterday to Greg, Endgame. And I'll get a DVD to you, Don, as soon as possible. But they plan on dividing this whole world up into sections. and having people that are part of the elitist group run them. This has to be exposed, and Ron Paul knows all about this stuff, and I know you know a lot about it, who's behind the scenes, and just talking this rhetoric about closing the borders. There's a reason why they have them wide open, and I just hope that you become more informed and also become more informed on how criminal the Bush family has been through the years. They belong to Skull and Bones. They've been involved with the Third Reich in Germany. They do not present a good image to me with their history, and people just idle. Feel that they brought us in the right direction. They're all in the same boat together. All these presidents since I think Kennedy have been completely controlled, and that has to be exposed. I think you could do it, and you have to get the information that will expose it out. And I appreciate your time.
Don, I'll let you take a moment for that just before we hit news real quick and give a response real quick.
Well, I agree with that, and everywhere that I go to speak, I try to sneak in a few words about this New World Order business, because there are groups, as you well know, like the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg family and others that are trying to bring us into a New World Order, and we've got to put a stop to that. And the United Nations is the biggest enemy that we have in this country, as far as I'm concerned right now, and have been for many, many years. There have been other organizations like way back in the 1950s, the John Birch Society was out there telling us, get out of the United Nations because it's going to destroy this country. And right now they want to tax us to the tune of $850 million per year out of the American government to try and bring us into this New World Order. And like you say, the Bush family now, for example, George Bush the Sr. down in the Kyoto Treaty in Brazil in 1992, I was watching the television one day, and he said, now we're going to enter into the New World Order after he had stepped out of that meeting. And I almost went over there and kicked my television set right off of the stand because I was so irritated with that fact, because I think George Bush the Sr. did not know what he was talking about when he said things like this. This is a sovereign country. This United States, we have our borders, and we know where we live, and we are going to keep this as a sovereign nation. We're not going to drop everything and allow everybody to flow from every part of the world in here and take over our land, take over our water, take over our resources, take over our way of life, take over our traditions. None of this is going to happen as far as I'm concerned, and I will do every last thing I can possibly do to return this country to America. This is the United States of America. It is not the United States of the world. And our judicial system, our legislature system, and our political system has to be run from this country out of Washington, but by more responsible people.
Don Hooper is my guest. He'll be with us just a couple of minutes after the news break as we finish up on WMKT. Let's go ahead and grab another call for Don this morning. You're on the air with Don Hooper on WMKT. Hi.
Yeah, good morning, Greg, and Don, good morning to you, sir. But you know, when you start talking about the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergers, I'm afraid I'm going to have to go to a higher authority on these type of issues. A man who extensively researches the conspiracy thing. I have to talk to Vic McCarty and have him go through his extensive library, the magazine rack in his bathroom, to see whether or not this is really an issue.
Come on
anyways,
now.
Anyways, but what I wanted to say, Greg, and I'm going to get you this information, one of the big shakers in this New World Order, I think his name is Brzezinski, and he was making a speech before the world elite, the people behind the curtain. And his statements, he was actually really afraid and quite concerned about the fact that he said for the first time in the history of the world that there is a great political awakening among the people that have never happened before. And I think what he was trying to say was the fact that we're not in the old paradigm of Democrats against Republicans, and they throw the Republicans out, the Democrats come in. It's the fact that people are really starting to understand that there are people behind the scenes pulling the strings in our government and all the governments in the world. And Don, I think your awareness of these type of things, and I really think that you're onto something. And with all I've heard about you, I'm throwing my support behind your candidacy. And thanks for being there, buddy.
Oh,
Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Don.
Thanks for your support. I appreciate that a whole lot. Now, Brzezinski, of course, was one of the promoters of the Trilateral Commission from the very beginning, and him and David Rockefeller are the ones that really put it all together. And so I understand what you're saying when you talk about that guy, because he had important positions in the U.S. government as well, and he's no better today than he was then. So we've got to watch out for this. This is our biggest concern right now. I know that everybody else thinks about health care, and they think about cap and trade, and they think about the other things that are being pulled over our eyes. But the most important thing right now is the sovereignty of this country.